the JW Marriott Hotel in fabulous downtown Los Angeles. It's everybody's favorite time of the week, the Promoter 101 podcast, with your hosts Dan Steiny Steinberg and Luke Balls to the Wall Pierce, interviewing Wayne Forte and Charlie Levy. Get ready, get set, podcast. Ooh. Ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba. All right. Promoter 101. 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 Promoter 101.
I'm Dan Steinberg. Welcome to Promoter 101. We're coming to you live from Pollstar. We want to give a shout out to Craig Newman for recording our theme song. He is a funky mofo. It's fucking 9:30 in the morning. Anyway, we got a live crowd, so this will be fun. We really want to interact with you guys. We're here. We're going to pull this off. Luke, how the fuck are you feeling?
The velvety voice of Luke Pierce. You get to listen to this all morning. So thank everybody for coming out to Let's Drink 5 last night at Exchange LA. I had a fantastic time, if you can't tell by my voice already. We're going to be joined a little bit later today by Entourage talents, Wayne Forte.
Legend.
And Mr. Charlie Levy from Stateside Presents.
Future legend.
If you're in the room today, we're going to welcome comments and questions. We want this to be an interactive experience, but just remember, this is being recorded for a podcast, so if you don't have a microphone in front of you, please just raise your hand. We'll bring one over to you, ask a question later, but if you don't have a microphone in front of you, the internet can't hear you, so please.
It really sounds like dead air, but today with the mic, Jeff White from Ticketfly was our host today with the mic, so just raise your hand, he'll bring you a mic, and you'll get to be on the podcast, but say your name and your job. Fucking Zink's already heckling. Awesome.
Fantastic. Where's Vince Bannon?
But feel free to take pictures and use the hashtag Promoter101.
You can tag Dan at The Jew on Twitter, and I'm W. Luke Pierce on Twitter, and our Promoters 101 is our official Twitter hashtag, so please tag us.
So how many of you have heard of agent versus promoter? Show of hands?
That's a pretty
The
good
internet
size.
can probably see all those hands, huh?
Yeah, it's a pretty good size for this room. So, Dan, those guys are great. Do you actually know who they are?
No, but I mean, it's got to be somebody at like C3 or AC or, Bowery, one of those guys that are buying festivals and buying from clubs to theaters to arenas, because they're buying some really hip stuff, and at the same time, they're doing a lot of volume, and that's the promoter side. The agent side, you got to think Windish, Paradigm, Billions, High Road. That's some really hip stuff too. So, not quite sure. I got a couple ideas of who it is, but everyone seems to be denying it up and down. I thought Joe Atanian maybe, but he adamantly denied it.
Houston Powell, Sam Hunt, those are all names that have been thrown around from Paradigm of who that is. If you're not familiar with what agent versus promoter is, it's a Tumblr account. It's a meme-esque account of the day-to-day accountings of the life of an agent and a promoter, which is a pretty hilarious recounting of some things that are very contemporary in the business. And
those guys are clearly here because they've been posting some really funny gems from Pollstar this week. So I'm curious. We invited them to do to come do the podcast over the phone through their account and Instagram. We messaged them hoping they'd come out and we could do it over the phone, disguise their voices. And, I think that'd be great.
I'm still wondering why we scheduled this, or they scheduled us at 9:30 in the morning. This is ridiculous. So
I think Pollstar hates you, Luke.
It's true. So why don't we jump into the news from last week?
Cool. Maybe we get Dave Brooks to join us and do some news from Amplify magazine. Dave Brooks, ladies and gentlemen. Proud new papa. Give it up for him. 12 days?
15.
15 days old.
Thank you.
Have you slept?
Thank you. Oh, we had the baby in the room last night. It's kind of like it's a different kind of party to stay up all night with a screaming toddler.
Equally delusional right now?
You see how fast you can fill up one of those. You see how fast you can fill up that tiny bathroom trash can with diapers. It's It's pretty incredible.
Let's poop one. All right. So what's going on in the news, buddy?
Well, the big story this week at Amplify for us was we finally heard the details of AEG Live purchasing the Bowery Presents. So as everyone remembers, like last April, I think, Ray Waddell broke the story when he was at Billboard. And
He's in the room, dude.
Is
Hey,
he?
Ray.
There he
What's
is,
up, Ray?
right there. So you didn't hear much about it for months, but I've never doubted Ray once. And hey, last week they came out and officially announced that they did the deal. So 50% stake in the company. The number I heard tossed around was $40 million, and now Bowery is part of Team AEG. They're going to open this new venue in Brooklyn Steel. This is a kind of interesting name. What do you think of that one?
I'm really curious to see what those guys do. I mean, Glancy is an icon. I love Jomo. Now that they're working with the Luba and all Adam Ware, it's like the concept of all those guys in that Jersey, New York market together. I think they're going to be a powerhouse to reckon with. And with their festival, Panorama, and you got Toilette on that team, it's like, dude, it's a heavy-hitting batting order, man.
Well, AC, C3, Union. I mean, there's a ton of independent roll-ups here, and we'll put Dan on the spot. Are you Emporium? You and Jason Zink? Are you guys in talks with anybody right now?
Does anybody have a checkbook here? I mean, we've gotten some calls, but I think we have an independent entrepreneur spirit and I say fuck a lot at these things. So I don't know. For the moment, we're having a good time doing what we're doing.
Well, it was interesting because they told me that to get the deal done, to get Jomo over, they flew in Paul Toilette, Lou Messina, and Barry Marshall to kind of show them, they can keep their entrepreneurial ways, and so it was a long courtship. I think each venue has multiple investors in the Bowery, and just untangling all that.
We had Jay Macian on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about how complex that deal was to cut. There were so many different owners of some of the clubs and some of the other properties, and getting it all together and figuring it out took a long time. So once they decided it was going to happen, then they had to figure out, okay, are you still going to be involved in the club? Are we buying the club? Or are you buying the other side of the club? It was a whole big to-do because there were so many pieces on how that built. But those guys are going to be a powerhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
they are a powerhouse in New York.
They're calling themselves the biggest promoter in New York now. So,
Gangs of New York, AEG.
Exactly. So what else? We got more New York stuff. I thought it was interesting. Bloomberg first reported that the Islanders are going to probably be leaving the Barclays Center at the end of either 17 or 18 season. It was interesting that the deal they had where they were basically covering the team for $50 million, and I think they just looked at it. And after only 2 years at the Barclays Center, because remember the Islanders were at Nassau Coliseum, they're looking like they're going to leave. Just the Barclays Center feels like they can make more money doing concerts and whatever else as opposed to 40 hockey games that are half attended.
I think they're bluffing. They're just trying to get a better rent deal out of Sean. I think it's going to be okay. I get faith.
You think so? Well, Lewicki is...
No, I think they're fucked. This is gone, man.
I'll say, Lewicki is part of the story I was reading is he's advising the team, so it could be a negotiation tactic. Who knows?
He's a big deal, that Tim Lewicki guy.
Yeah, he is. He's definitely moving and shaking things around here. So
very cool. What else is going on out there?
Well, finally, it seems like we have another New York story as well. Big arrest, a big indictment came down with Dan Melly, and he's a longtime Manhattan promoter. He did the Billy Joel shows on Long Island on Social, and we call it Social. I forget the exact name, and basically. He raised something like $80 million to buy up 35,000 Hamilton tickets. And it turns out he, in kind of classic Ponzi scheme fashion, he is accused of taking $50 million of it and just paying back old investors and, pocketing some money and whatever.
I don't know how you can get 50 million tickets. I can't even get a pair to that fucking thing. It's been sold out for weeks.
Well, I don't know either. I mean, he's been saying the part. If you read the indictment, what's interesting is that part of it he was talking about how he had this deal with a producer from the show, and so why this story doesn't just die with him and why it kind of drags on is because he was on the board of DreamTix DTI, which is one of these big consolidation firms, which, takes $10 to $20 million ticketing positions, right? And so this was potentially going to be their Hamilton deal. They had all these sports packages where they're buying up thousands of seats. And so now I'm watching carefully kind of what's the collateral damage on this. Like, what's the downfall? They've already suspended him. They hired this high-priced PR guy who I have to, deal with, who hammers me on every word I use. And
well, it's awesome because if you're talking about Ponzi schemes, it puts you in that category in this industry with Jack Utsick, and
right.
That's something you just got to be excited about, man. It's like you've reached that level of scumbag.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, once you get you're a 10-figure scumbag too, right? It's like,
Oh, Jesus.
Anyway, what else is going on, buddy?
well, so here at
Pollstar?
Pollstar Live.
Here to help.
You see some folks around. I noticed, a few new jobs popping out. I saw David Marcus from Score Big, and he's popped up at Ticketmaster, which I thought was pretty interesting. I'm no clear what he's going to be doing yet, but he's been around for a long time.
And saw some folks from Ticketmaster. It sounds like he's stepping in to kind of stand over Zishan, who heads artist services there, which is a really interesting role. That's kind
right.
of like a continued development in that space for those guys. So really interesting that they put him in that place. There's acquisitions on the Applause side of things too. I don't know if you're familiar with Kieran's company Applause.
Right.
Was recently acquired by Azov Management. They're shutting down their pre-sale services for non-Azov clients. So some consolidation, some moves and shakes in that artist services, third-party ticketing space.
Yeah, I mean, the Eventbrite just bought Ticket Briz, I want to say it
Briz,
right. Yeah, in the Netherlands. And so it's always amazing like how much consolidation can exist. How much it seems like there's a race between how many companies can pop up and how many people can buy them as fast as possible, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess anything else, if anybody, obviously, I was able to go to your guys' party. How did that go last night?
The party was good. We had the best numbers we've ever had, but that place was really cool. I didn't realize it was the original Los Angeles Stock Exchange, but that place was cool as shit. I had a great time, and we saw some great people come out.
I think my favorite part was that you couldn't get cell phone reception inside that building, so everybody was kind of like locked in a vault last night and couldn't even text across the room. It was pretty cool. Very rare for the business.
Well, that is a very cool old commodities exchange, and and if that was on Spring. If you also went to Tom Windish's party at Paradigm, that was on Spring as well. And that, I'm telling you, is the next part of LA that I think is on the up and coming. What do you think?
Yeah, Dim Mak. There's a bunch of stuff that's coming there. Eric Garcetti, the mayor of LA, has made that like the cool place to be. So they've really incentivized businesses, including Paradigm and Windish, and a bunch of cool shops that are down there. Dim Mak, Steve Aoki's record company down there. So very cool.
We know you got to go catch Good to Your Own panel, but thank you very much for stopping by. Give it up for Dave Brooks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
So in other news, legendary agent Trip Brown has moved to Nashville to join New Frontier Touring with Paul Lohr. That is an amazingly cool combo, the two of those guys. It's very cool. What do you think?
Very exciting stuff. Always great to have, new faces in Nashville. Love it down there.
Trip's not exactly a new face, but he's certainly an icon.
Sure. So Pollstar Awards are also tonight as well, too. Categories like Best Agent, the Bill Graham Talent Buyer of the Year, the Promoter of the Year, Best Tour Creative Video. There's tons of awards going on tonight. Dan is also nominated for tonight. You think you actually have a shot tonight?
No fucking way. But there's some cool guys in that category. It's kind of just be neat to be on that list with them. And
We love you.
Yeah. We're rooting for
you
you,
guys
man.
too. It's awesome to lose again. Not bitter.
No, not at all. Doesn't sound like it.
I want my mommy.
Well, we'll wrap it up for the news for right now. Why don't we move into a little bit of a surprise guest here. We're going to be joined by Mr. Scott Perry from the New Music Tip Sheet, also author of Snapchat 101 for a little visit down Music Tech here.
My name is David Klein. I'm Justin Bieber's tour manager, and I'm on Promoter 101.
It's good to have you back. This is your third appearance on the podcast.
Oh yeah, well, just trying to look into the future and see what's going on with everything. I tend to
Are you wearing spectacles right now from Snapchat?
I am wearing spectacles, so with this thing right here, all I have to do is just click a button, and it records for 10 seconds, and it transfers over to Snapchat via Bluetooth. Now you see the little light indicator shows that I'm actually filming you, so it's not creeping people out like the Google Glass did. And Google Glass was $1,500. These are $150. They're great for kids. They're great for Snapchat, and of course, Snapchat's going to be going public, in Wall Street in the next few weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go head-to-head with Facebook as Facebook continues to take every single key feature that makes Snapchat and plug it into Instagram and Facebook.
They probably don't know they're doing that. It's probably just an honest mistake.
Oh, yeah, just a coincidence. No big deal at all. But the crazy thing is, one of Snapchat's greatest features that's of benefit to everybody in the room are the geo-filters. So whether it's the label paying for it, the band paying for it, or you paying for it, you should have a branded geo-filter associated with your venues so that anybody at that venue, when they post a snap, actually have your geo-filter on there to show where they are and to brag to their friends.
And these aren't outrageously expensive. We're talking about $15-$20 for a day's.
Oh my! Yeah. They're $5, dude. It's harsh. Yeah, because you can get the Troubadour for 4 hours for $5 from 8 to midnight. Now Staples Center is always $1,000 whether or not anybody's in there, and that's just the way they've got a fixed price. You cannot get a geo-filter for something like the Grammys or Coachella because Snapchat has already blocked those off to sell to corporate sponsors. But as a venue owner, you should at least be investing in $5 a day on Snapchat geo-filters, so at least the kids have a means to promote you while they're promoting their exciting times at your show. And even if you don't know how to use Snapchat, the funny thing is, since Instagram and Facebook are stealing every single key feature from Snapchat, it's only a matter of time before Instagram offers these very same geo-filters on Instagram, where Instagram stories have really taken the thunder out of Snapchat's growth. Snapchat's always bragged about having 150 million daily active users, and that was a stat they promoted 6 months ago. It's not something they're really talking about right now, and there have been reports from outside agency audits showing that traffic to Snapchat has slowed, whether it's because the autoplay function has stopped from Snapchatter to Snapchatter, or if it's actually the use of Instagram stories has stanched the growth of the adult demographic moving over to Snapchat, because Instagram stories, if you haven't used it, are those little circles on top of Instagram where it shows live stories that disappear every 24 hours, which is something that is one of Snapchat's key features. So if, as an adult, all your friends are on Instagram and you've got this key feature that you would normally use on Snapchat, then why would you go to Snapchat if your friends aren't there? So it's a really challenging piece for Snapchat as they go public, but it's something they have to face. Competition's out there in the real world.
Is that a buy recommendation for you on that?
No, absolutely not. No,
really.
I do not. I would never recommend buying a stock in the public markets unless you're friends and family. And in a situation like that, their valuation is projected to be about $25 billion on top of about $1 billion in annual revenue. Now they are growing a lot of billing revenue, but if they're not growing their user base, they're going to face the same problems that Twitter had, where, Twitter's growing their annual revenue regularly because they have a good sales team, but if you're not growing your user base, which Twitter isn't anymore, then it's really hard to justify this valuation. So let the stock go public, let the hype die down. If it drops a little bit, just like Facebook did, in Facebook, opened up at 40, and then 2 months later, it settled around, And now, Facebook's gone, they faced the challenge of mobile, they owned it, and now Facebook's gone from 18 to $1.30, so not too shabby. So avoid the hype, let the dust settle, get an understanding of what Snapchat is all about. Buy my book, Snapchat 101,
shameless plug.
Kindle. Well, and in all honesty, this version is 6 months old, and it's already out of date. There's been a lot of changes to Snapchat in the past month alone, so I am revising it. I'll have a new edition out in about a week on Amazon, but Dan's got a couple copies here to give away.
Yeah, who wants them? We got 2. Anybody?
Anyway, enough about Snapchat. But the thing is, I'm just trying to look forward, but also look forward just enough to where you, as a business person, can take advantage of these opportunities.
Let me cut in here for a second and ask you about, you talked about Facebook for a second. Zuckerberg is speaking in every state in the union this year. Do you see him setting up for a political run in the distant future?
Why would anybody ever want to run in politics? It's you want to do your civic duty, but you're just putting yourself up to be pegged by...
It's not what I fucking asked you.
Oh. If he wants to, great. God bless him. But, it's like you've got all the money in the world, you've got all the influence in the world. Why you would want to set yourself up like that? Because, I mean, politics is grueling. Even if you're just running for mayor, you might have every, like, ideal in the world of, like, making a positive change for your community, whether it's local or international, but you just face so much opposition from haters and cock blockers that why would you want to do that?
Cock blockers, great. Let's talk about Alexandria. What's going on?
What's that again?
Let's talk about the tech.
Alexa.
Yeah,
So,
Alexa.
I mean, and so, it's been reported lately that because Alexa, Echo, the Amazon Echo and the Amazon Echo Dot were like the number one buzz product of the Christmas season, as I'd predicted back last summer. And because of that, it's actually provided a traffic boost not only to Pandora and Spotify, but also TuneIn and iHeart and all these other music streaming services, which has been great for music discovery.
But it's so easy to buy that children are actually ordering things without, like, meaning to.
Oh my gosh, they're going to say, Alexa, get me a dollhouse, And like, so one girl got a $140 dollhouse and like a 3-pound box of sugar cookies, and, or God forbid, somebody on the evening news would say, Alexa, buy me a bag of diapers. All of a sudden, everybody's Alexa that's turned on, or everybody's Echo or Dot that's turned on is going to buy them a bag of diapers.
I would love to see what Luke is telling Alexa to buy.
Dominoes, usually.
There you go. But, I mean, and in the future, there's no doubt about it, especially with general admission shows for clubs. When you hear a band playing on a streaming service, you're going to be able to say, Alexa, buy me 2 tickets. Now, how that works...
Somewhere Andrew Druskin got hard, right there.
Well, okay, so think about this. And the people in the audience that work for this company don't have to confirm or deny, but let's say in a perfect scenario, you are playing Pandora through your Amazon Echo or Echo Dot. And when one of the acts that you've liked or favorited comes up on that, it may give you an option to say, this band is playing at the Satellite on Tuesday, February 14th. Would you like to go? And you say, yes, I would like 2 tickets. And when you say that, it might be synced up to your phone, so all of a sudden 2 tickets show up on your phone that can be scanned at the door. So because Pandora has purchased Ticketfly, because Pandora is audio-based and Ticketfly has a great back-end technology, and they have the venture funding to do it, they can build this business out to where you can purchase tickets by voice that's synced up to your Amazon account. And so all you do is pull up a barcode and your tickets are there, whether you print them or whether you show them off at the door. And this can be done with pilot studies, whether it's at a small club here, which I hope it is, or in San Francisco, depending on where Pandora's engineering base is. But I really
when it comes to ticketing, it seems like it's probably going to be closer to where Ticketfly's office is. But yeah.
So I mean, and that's not pie in the sky. That is perfectly legitimately possible. Of course, there's a lot of protocol that has to be worked out, like, how is the split going on? How do the tickets appear? How are you?
We'll let Andrew figure that out. That's his job. Speaking of that, what's going on with Pandora and Ticketfly?
I don't know. You tell me. I mean, it's like the purchase was made, the integration is happening. I'm not like so far on the inside with either promoters or Pandora to say how it's working out, but
But obviously it must be working because they just did some layoffs at Pandora, but Ticketfly was untouched.
Great. Right.
And that seems like a good thing. And Druskin's going to be on the podcast in a couple weeks, so we got that to look for and probably get his response on what's going on there. But it seems like technology they're winning that war.
Good. It's a very challenging space because Pandora's done a really good job with ad sales. Even despite like all the competition they have from iHeart, who has the advantage of terrestrial radio to push people to that service. Even with like the deep pockets that pure streaming services like Spotify have, and Google and Amazon and all these other, and of course Apple Music.
Dude, you need less coffee, man.
Right. But no, and so in 4 or 5 minutes time, that's the basic stuff. It's like be on the lookout for Alexa voice-enabled ticket purchasing in the next 6 months, even if it's only pilot studies, and get to know Snapchat. If not to use Snapchat, then to understand where Facebook is going with their strategies and how you can best promote your shows.
What else is going on out there that we need to know about?
Oh gosh, that's really the best things that are out there right now. Those 2 or 3 items are just enough.
Right the fuck on, man. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Give it up to Scott Perry.
Jim Runge, tour manager for Imagine Dragons, and we're on Promoter 101.
How you guys doing out there? 9:30. Yeah.
Thanks for making it out again. This is the part of our podcast where we typically break down Dan's ramblings and musings on his Twitter account, which if you're not following Dan, he's at The Jew on Twitter. This is kind of the origin for Promoter 101. This kind of started as you making these rambling tweets, and we kind of had this idea, said, it'd be cool to actually put some of these thoughts down and discover these things. So before we jump into what you said last week and the last couple of weeks on Twitter, maybe this is a good chance to talk about the origin of this. We're 16, 17 episodes into this now. How did this all come to be?
Well, I mean, I've always been a smartass for those of you that know me, and Twitter just made that easier. It's like, it's great to voice it's actually counseling for me. It's like fucking box office included comps again. Paid. Like, all right, tweet it out. Like, everybody responds. It's like, yeah, that happened to me like 17 times last week. Or fucking when an agent like tells you like whatever, it's like, yeah, everybody agrees. It's like, oh, okay. And then the agents fight back, and it's like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. It's like the industry's actually like talking back. It's fun. It's like conversation started, but it was like, I don't know, it started with a couple tweets, and then we did a panel a handful of years ago at the IAAM, which was, it was like entitled Promoter 101, so we used that hashtag because I kind of liked it and kind of grew from that.
Yeah. Well, should we take a second and actually break down some of the things you've said in the last couple of weeks on your Twitter account?
Sure, let's see if we can remember them.
Bring them up here. When a venue GM tells you he's not at all flexible, then calls confused when he sees a date confirmed at a competitor's venue.
Yeah, it's I love that. We could have made a better deal. Why didn't you say something? I'm like, you just told me you wouldn't do anything. I called your bluff. We're playing the other room. So we got to move it back. It's like, dude, it's announced. But maybe next time you won't be so quick to be like, that's the deal.
How about this one? When a local public official demands to see an artist play in their market as if the artist has ever heard or cares about them.
Yeah, my artists just don't give a fuck about local politicians.
Is it like mayors? Like, what are you talking about?
No, I mean, you get these things because these venues are owned in a lot of the big arenas and the PACs are owned by the local cities. And so those guys have to answer to their board, and that's the town council or sometimes the mayor, and those guys all want to impress the higher ups. So you're doing a show in town where it's somebody that's cool, and they're like, yeah, we want to get a picture. Don't they want to meet the mayor? And like, I don't give a fuck about your mayor. We're not going to be in Cleveland again. Fuck you.
No knocks on Cleveland.
Nobody's fucking ever heard of that place. Stuart Ross is going to come kick my ass now about Cleveland.
Exactly. This one. When that someone who would never offer to buy a cup of coffee suddenly asks for comps.
Fucking douche. Buy some tickets. Support the scene, for fuck's sake. Oh, you know that guy. Cool.
When you're told you're the first one to be pitched and then learn everybody else already has offers in.
Yeah, this happens to anybody else in the room? Spoiler alert, agents sometimes lie.
Wow. When an agent challenges their own hold for a different act and will not release themselves, but still gets upset about being challenged.
This actually happened. And yeah, I still can't wrap my mind around that mind fuck. They were both his dates, and he was yet still upset with me that I couldn't clear his own date that he wouldn't release for me. I have no fucking idea how to help that one. I'm not telling you that. Actually, I'll tell you later.
All right, that'll wrap it up for Dan's musings. If you're not following Dan on Twitter, he's at The Jew on Twitter. He's making daily musings and ramblings about the music industry and a good context for learning about some of these unique situations, which Dan will comment on all the time. So why don't we jump into our featured interviews today. First, we want to welcome up a legendary agent. He's worked with everybody from The Cure to Joe Satriani to Tedeschi Trucks Band. I want to please welcome Entourage Talents, Mr. Wayne Forte.
Hey, this is Mark Geiger from WME, William Morris Endeavor Entertainment, coming to you on Dan Steinberg's podcast.
You're legendary. You're the only agent that wears a gun holster.
That's right. The question is, do I carry a gun?
Yeah, we're afraid to find out, but I have a feeling it's settlement one night.
I carry a telephone. That's even worse.
I always figured it was a telex.
I still have my telex, actually.
So, Wayne, for those of you in the room and listening to the podcast that aren't familiar with your story, why don't we talk about your beginnings, where you started at, and how things kicked off for you in the music business?
Like where I came from?
Yeah, let's talk about your first couple of years at ICM.
Born in a Malaysian mountain town.
Well, it's sort of a classic story. I was the college concert promoter. In fact, interestingly enough, I was having flashbacks yesterday at the Danny Zalesko session. Is Danny here?
He was catching a flight.
Okay, so one of the last shows I ever produced in college was Alice Cooper. And I went to school in North Carolina. So I can't tell you. They literally almost drove me out of town for booking the act. And it was everything that Shep and Alice talked about. It was fantastic. I lucked into buying an act that I had no idea how I was going to sell the tickets in a town that virtually hardly anybody knew, because it wasn't really popular in the South at that point. And the newspapers took over for me, and they just started printing the frickin' stories and, saying that I was out of my fucking mind and I should be arrested. And, the ASPCA jumped in because of the whole chicken issue, and we sold 20,000 tickets. So it worked like a charm. Anyway, so that's where I started. Started in college, and then I took a job in New York, which I was only going to do for a year, just to see how things rolled. And, I figured I'd go back to New York, work for about a year in the business, get a little feel for it, and then move back south again, because I actually liked living in the South. And, that was, I don't even want to say how many years ago, and I never went back.
And you ran through a bunch of the agencies, right? Like you spent time at ICM and William Morris, and where else?
Well, I started at CMA.
I don't believe I'm familiar with that.
Okay, that was Creative Management Associates. CMA and an agency called IFA, International Famous Agency, merged while I was there and became ICM. So that's how I ended up at ICM. So I was the last person in New York that made it through the merger. Everybody else was axed from CMA or moved out of town.
You must have been pretty good even back then, huh?
No, I was the cheapest guy on the block. I booked the clubs. I was in the last office around the corner, and I don't even know if they knew I was there. So I made it through the merger. I was at ICM for a couple of years, and then I left there and went to a smaller agency I went to a smaller agency for a year. And I worked in an agency called Magna Artists. Now, interestingly enough, at dinner last night, Steve Martin was telling the story, because when I left Magna, Steve went to Magna. I went from Magna to William Morris, and I was there for 4 years. I was the head of the music department my last year, and I left. And when I left William Morris, Steve went to William Morris. So we've kind of been following each other around the business. So I went from there to William Morris. I was there for 4 years, and then after 4 years, one of the agents at William Morris and I got friendly. We weren't friendly initially, and we left, and we opened an agency called International Talent Group.
And that was with Michael?
Michael Farrell, yeah.
Okay, and you guys were a big agency, ITG, right?
Well, as I said to you last night at dinner, I never thought so. We were small. We were two guys with two assistants. That's how we started out.
For those of you that don't know the history, give them the list of acts, and then you tell me that you weren't a big agency.
Genesis, Phil Collins, Pink Floyd, The Cure, Depeche Mode, Duran Duran, David Bowie, Billy Idol, Paul Young.
Anybody else want to call bullshit?
Howard Jones. Yeah. So anyway, we started out as a small agency, and before, when I turned around, one day Michael came into my office and said, we're pretty big. And I said, yeah, we are. We're 16 people. We got a lot of fucking people here. He goes, no, I don't mean big people. He said, we're pretty big. I said, what are you referring to? And he said, last year, he liked to do little things like this. He'd, I would go home and plan tours. He'd go home and think about things like this. He said, we did more stadium shows last year than any other agency in the business. We did more arena shows than anybody else in the business. And we have more arena and stadium acts at the moment than anybody else in the business. And I looked at him, I said, really? And he said, yeah, look at your fucking books. And so that was the day, and I must have been, 1990, and we'd been in business from 81, that I thought, yeah, I guess so. I guess we're pretty influential. It was just one of those things. I always kept my head down and just did my thing. I never thought about how big we were. I just always wanted to take my act from the club to Shea Stadium or, Giant Stadium. Like, for instance, The Cure. Who was I telling? Andy the story last night. Because actually
Andy Summers?
Andy Summers was an assistant at William Morris when I was there. And he was one of those guys, when it came in on the floor, I looked and I went, this kid's got something. So I had him secretly, because the assistants weren't supposed to book, and I just said, here's an act. Just book some dates for me. Don't tell anybody. And so, he started, booking stuff. So he'd come to me all the time, and I'd give him things to do.
That seemed to work out pretty well for him.
Worked out great for him. I mean, he actually booked some of the original Cure dates. I brought my original Cure route sheet. I think they worked for about $400. So the first show they ever did, I walked into the club uptown in New York, and I thought, okay, let's see what this is going to be all about, because it was a great record, and I chased the act for a while, and there were 25 people in the room.
Who's the act?
The Cure. And I looked and I went, oh, fuck, this is going to be a long road. It was 25 people. But anyway, my point was, so my whole lot in life was to go from there to here. And so, the day we sold out Giant Stadium, to me was the success, It wasn't really about how big the agency was. It was like, that was my success.
You focus a lot on UK acts. I mean, just rattled off a few there. Was there any particular focus? Or?
Yeah, well, when we left William Morris, my former partner had Genesis. Peter Gabriel had just left, so we had Peter Gabriel as well. Phil hadn't gone out on his own yet, and he had Steve Hackett, who was the original guitar player in Genesis. So he had the three of them, and he had one or two others. I had... we didn't leave with anything big. Now, everybody thinks that we left with big acts. Okay, Genesis played, I think, maybe one or two cities and stadiums. The rest of the country, they were in arenas. Peter Gabriel was playing clubs. When I left the agency, I had Joe Jackson, who was playing colleges and some theaters. I took the Clash with me, who nobody at William Morris even understood. And I'd only done one tour with them, or two tours with them to that point. But again, nobody really understood them. I mean, I thought they were, they would be a huge act eventually. Duran Duran was an act I was working on, but I hadn't signed them yet. In fact, when I left, the manager tracked me down and called me at the new agency, and we signed them. So literally, and I think I brought the sheet. I might have the sheet from the original agency.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Oh, and I wanted to bring it out because of the names of the acts. The point was, we had nothing really big.
What happened with the agency?
We had a scrap to pay the overhead, But what happened was, what we did was we concentrated, just because of our relationships, we concentrated on the British acts. I had spent a lot of time going back and forth to the UK, so I had some great relationships there. The other agencies were concentrated in the US. And rather than beat our heads against the wall against the major agencies, we thought, we had the relationships. We just go where we had them. And from a business perspective, it was a little bit easier because we didn't have to worry about working the acts all the time. We had to do a tour a year, maybe, or every other. So it made it kind of easy because we could come in and out with a number of acts and still have time to concentrate and do the business. And so we grew the acts. And you grow the acts, you grow the business.
Wayne, I don't think you've really talked about it, but how did the agents, you guys had Marty Diamond there. How did that agency come to an end? IGC was huge. What happened?
Marty Diamond actually was a great story. Is Marty here? No. Okay. Marty Diamond was actually a great story because he was working at Arista Records. I knew Marty for a long time. He was an agent when he started out of college. Then he went to work at the Ritz in New York, and he was the assistant buyer, talent buyer. And the Ritz was a red-hot club at that point. In case anybody doesn't know, it's Webster Hall now. It was the Ritz. They used to put 2,400 people in there. I think the legal capacity is 1,000. I have no idea how they put those fucking people in there. But we
big shoehorn,
smaller people, right?
Umpteen shows there at the Ritz, and the Ritz. The shows at the Ritz, for anybody that's not from New York or doesn't know about it, the shows would start at 11:30 and go to 2 in the morning. So you'd show up at 11 o'clock, there'd be nobody there. By midnight, the place was jammed. There was a crowd in the street, and it would go till about 2, 3 in the morning. So Marty worked there for a long time, and then he went to Arista Records. Or actually, he may have gone somewhere in between. Then he was at Arista Records. So I had talked to Marty a lot because he was hawking me to sign a couple of acts that they had. So I signed one. One was a Dutch act, anyway, we started talking a lot and getting together, and one day we had lunch, and I just said, Marty, you ever think about coming to the agency business again? And he said, yeah, maybe if the deal's right. So anyway, very long story short, I brought him in. He was a VP at fucking Arista, so I had to pay him a lot of money. I brought him in. My partner said, what are you doing? You're crazy. Guy has no acts. You're paying him a crap load of money. And I said, Michael, just
I'm sure the guys at Paradigm are really thanking you now, huh?
Just relax. Anyway, and he did. So he came in, we made a trip to the UK together, and we had a bunch of meetings, and I just watched him, and I went, poop, this is done. All I have to do now is sit back and wait. And then to answer your question, it's a very involved story, but I just woke up one day and decided I didn't want to do it anymore.
That's how the agency ended? You just said, fuck it, I'm not going to be an agent
anymore? No, that's
anymore?
not how it ended, but that's
because I got news for you, you're still an agent.
That's how I ended the agency. No, I didn't want to do that anymore. We had come to a point where we made a joint venture deal about 3 or 4 years before I came to that realization. And we were partners. This is an early roll-up situation. It wasn't a roll-up yet, but it was going to be a roll-up. There was a public company out of Canada that was putting together an entertainment division. We were one of the early ins. So they had a management company, eventually an agency, a merchandising company, a jingle company, et cetera. They were building this conglomerate that was either going to be go public or spun off or sold. So we 50-50 joint venture. So I was running, and then on top of that, we decided to open an office in Los Angeles after we did that. So I was running the New York office. I was dealing with the joint venture. I had 42 clients that I had signed. 25 of them I was personally responsible for. I had the staff in New York. We opened an office in L.A. We did a joint venture with a small film literary TV company. Michael moved out to L.A. We were running L.A. He was running L.A. I was flying back and forth every 6 weeks to watch our investment. I flew to London and we made a joint venture deal. It took me 2 years with an agency over there. So I was overseeing the 3 offices, the joint venture, my clients, the business, and I just woke up one day and thought, I'm going to be dead.
But you're a mogul.
I understand that. So I thought, what's the most important thing? Oh, so let me back up. So I'll get into a personal thing, which actually is interesting because somebody brought this up the other day. It's nothing we ever talk about at these things, is how this affects your life. I got divorced. I had 2 kids. They were 11 and 8. I woke up one day, literally, and said, I'm never going to see my daughters again. I get them every other weekend, and I'm never home. So I thought, what's most important? My life and their life.
Family.
Exactly. So
you made a life decision.
I made a life decision.
I walked your daughters in your life.
I walked in and I said to my partners, my day-to-day partner and my business, the joint venture partners, we've got to restructure this business. I can't keep doing this. Why? We're doing great. We're making a crap load of money. The business is growing. I go, yeah, off my back. We need to restructure. So I spent 6 months putting a restructure plan together, and I presented it, and they turned it down. So that's when I woke up one day, and I just thought, fuck this. I ain't doing this anymore. So I went in and I resigned. And I said, I'll maintain my relationship. I'll keep my clients. I'll book, but I'm not running the business. I'm not running the office. I'm just going to be an agent. You guys find someone else to run the business.
So you essentially passed.
Yeah. And they said, no way. That ain't going to happen. If, you're basically leaving. I said, I'm not leaving. I'll do this. So anyway, they basically said, you have to make one choice or the other. Either do what you're doing or you leave. I said, I'll leave. And so I left.
That's when Entourage was born?
6 weeks, well, not 6 weeks, yeah, about 8 weeks later, Entourage. Well, that was a whole other long discussion that I had to negotiate my way out, because originally I had a non-compete for 5 years and I couldn't do anything, but I negotiated my way out, and they allowed me to leave and take only 6 clients with me. That was the deal. So I left, I took 6 clients with me, I opened up Entourage Talent. ITG stayed together for about a year and a half, too.
So it was like Cure, Satriani. Who else did you take?
I took Cure, Satriani, Tragically Hip. Let me think. Who else? I don't know, one or two others. Some others came later, but I was only allowed to, the real deal was I was only allowed to call 6 people. If they came, fine. If they didn't, fuck off. I couldn't call anybody else, so I agreed to that. I called 6 people. 4 of those people came, and then later some other people came. So I started off with a smaller business. I had more time for my personal life.
So you brought your booking sheets, and if you ever go to Wayne's office, you can see these things before they go to Cleveland, because they're going to wind up in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Do you have them with you?
Yeah.
So after the session, you should come up and be very careful, because they really probably will wind up in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But his literal booking sheets from booking the Queen tour and the Clash and Aerosmith, like on their first club tours from William Morris days, handwritten on what the guarantees were and what the markets were and what the deals were.
Yeah.
It's
Actually,
rock and roll history.
Those are the ICM days. But I have the ICM sheets, and I brought the William Morris sheets, and I brought the ITG sheets. So.
Yeah, so if you get a chance, come look at those things. Like, it's amazing who's in that book, and it really is like, it's something that's going to wind up in the Hall of Fame. It's incredible.
Dan just rattled off a ton of amazing acts you've worked with over the years. Who's gotten you the most excited in all that time?
Oh, Jesus Christ. The most excited. Oh, my God. There's just too many of them. Somebody always asks me, I've been asked a number of times, what's the most exciting show you've ever been to? That's like saying, what's the best food you've ever eaten? There's so many, but probably one of the most excited I ever was, and absolutely feared for my life at the same time, was when I saw the Clash in London the first time. I looked and I went, and this is a great story because all the agents that I knew in London and did business with when I went over during those days, and that was like the late 70s, they were like, "What are you wasting your time in these fucking acts for? They can't afford to live anywhere. They don't have jobs. They can't fucking play. They just sound like shit." And I just said, no, there's like an energy happening here, right? So, and I went to see the Clash, and when they walked out on stage, it was like, oh my God, this is the next big thing. I have to sign this act. I chased them for 2 years. At the same time, I had to back myself up to the wall because the entire place erupted, and there were fist fights everywhere, and I was like, holy fuck, there were skinheads on one side, punks on the other, and I thought I was going to get killed.
Did they break?
Yeah, they broke.
No, let's talk about, you book what I would say is the single best live act on the road, bar none now. Tedeschi Trucks is, without a doubt, the best band live on the road. And if you haven't seen them, you're doing yourself a disservice working in this industry, not knowing what I'm talking about. Live, they bring it.
Incredible.
How did that happen? How'd you wind up with that?
Well, I've represented Derek for 17 years.
So you just got lucky. You booked the kid 17 years ago, then he got married, and you got a cool act?
No, it's more involved than that. Do we have time to tell the story?
Yeah.
I'll tell it as quickly as I can. So there's an attorney that, this even goes too far back, but there's an attorney who I was friendly with at the time who was a partner of my former roommate from college who I put into concert business in the Carolinas, because back in the day when I had ITG, nobody would book the acts we had in the Carolinas. They weren't interested. So I called my roommate up from college one day, and my former roommate, and I said to him, "Listen, go over to fucking Chapel Hill, get the small theater. I can't remember the name of it. The like 1,200 seat theater. Put it on hold for me. I want to book Joe Jackson there." And he said, "Well, how are we going to do that?" I said, "Just don't worry about it. I'll give you the money. Just go book it. I think he's going to sell out." He was doing great business up north and out in the Midwest and out west in the colleges. So anyway, he went out. He put the date. He put the building on hold. He called me back. He said, "Okay." I said, "All right. I'll just tell me what the costs are, and I'll bankroll you. I just want the date to happen." So he said, "No, you don't have to do that." He said, "I got this friend that I grew up with who's an attorney, and this guy, John, who we went to college with, and then there's this other guy over here, and they're going to put the money up, and we're going to do the show." So very long story short, they put the thing on sale. It sold out. Call me back. Let's have another one. So I gave them the Psychedelic Furs. It sold out. So they went into concert business. They became a concert promotion company. They did all our acts. They ended up doing the stadium acts and everything. And the PS was then everybody started moving into the Carolinas because they realized that there's a lot of business going on here with acts that nobody, before that they were booking Uriah Heep and Deep Purple and, that kind of stuff. So anyway, one of the attorneys from that I became friendly with, and he became Derek Truck's attorney. He chased me for 2 or 3 years. He said, from when he was 14, I got this kid. He's incredible. You got to see him. So I looked at him. I go, what am I going to do with a kid that's this big, playing with like these 45-year-old guys? He can't even get into a bar. Yeah. Legally. So he kept me, but he kept
legally.
At me. Yeah, legally. So he kept at me. Finally, he said, "Would you just at least help us? Get us some slots on shows or something." I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And I did it. And then eventually he was 17, he was about to be 18. He goes, "I really would like you to take the act on." I said, "Okay, fine." So I remember him coming in for a meeting. He was 18 years old, came in with the attorney. We actually signed an agency agreement. And I represented him since then. So I've had him since then.
Does the name Booked Trucks, being related to him, have any excitement with that when you're first being pitched?
No, that didn't matter to me. It didn't matter to me. It was all about the act. It really didn't matter who.
But the connection to the Almonds there didn't ring off a bell, maybe there's something here?
No, it was just about him. And the reason the reason I got involved originally was the relationship, because that's how most things happen anyway. But then, I thought he's a good player. He's committed. He played a lot. I mean, he was on the road all the time, And I thought, okay, there's something here. It wasn't the fact that it was the Allman Brothers. It wasn't any of that really. And it was the look too. He was a young kid.
I guess in all fairness, we've never used that to sell the act. I mean, everybody knows that he played with them.
Now, to the contrary, because originally when I booked the act, the Derek Trucks band, we had a clause in the rider that says you cannot relate it to the Allman Brothers. You can't say related to. And when he eventually he didn't join the band. He was asked to fill in for when they changed guitar players. We also said that you can't say of the Allman Brothers, plays in the Allman Brothers. We went entirely the opposite way. We don't want to have anything to do with it because I didn't want to build him off the back of the Allman Brothers. He's got to be his own person. I think in the long run it worked.
Well, the fans could find that stuff anyway, the people that know.
Exactly. You don't have to put it in people's faces. I don't want people coming expecting to hear Allman Brothers music because he wasn't playing it. He didn't play any Allman Brothers music. So, try to make it a shorter story. So, he got married, and I had seen Susan show up at a show once and sit in, and I thought, wow, like there's magic up there on stage. Something's happening here. So I said to the now manager, who used to be the tour manager, Blake Budney. I said, Blake, we got to do this. We got to put the two of them together. Well, I don't know. There was two different managers, two different agents, different record companies. He said, I don't know. It may be a good thing, maybe not. Maybe it's not, whatever. He said, I don't know. Let's not push it. So what eventually happened was we did a tour with the Derek Trucks Band and the Susan Tedeschi Band as a package. So I went out and covered a lot of shows. And every night when they played together, it was like fucking magic. I kept saying, no, this is... So I pushed it more. A couple of years later, we did something called Soul Stew Revival. I don't know if anybody remembers that. And that was the Derek Trucks Band with Susan and her sax player. So that was like this Mach 1 kind of thing. So we did a tour of that, and it was good, but it wasn't great because it wasn't like their band. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to use it as an example, but it's like... it's you and a partner, but it's all his shit. It's like, how much are you in, You're in, but you're not totally in because it's not everything of yours. So after that was over, I kept pushing it. I wouldn't give up. And finally, I said, let's just sit down and have a conversation about it. Let's have a meeting. So we ended up sitting down at lunch, the four of us, and had a conversation. I said, I think this could be magic. I think we put this new thing together. If you're committed, I'm committed. It's like a 5 to 7 year project. I don't think it can happen any sooner. I think it'll be 3 to get off the ground. But I'm all in. All you have to do is say go, and I'm ready. And so they said, okay, let's do it. We'll build it from the ground up. I said, fine. And so they spent the next 3 or 4 months flying musicians in, doing, playing with them, having sessions, and then they chose a band. So it was the first time that it was actually their project together. And they put this band together, and the concept of it we built around was no great shakes, no surprises for some people, for others they may be, but we built it around Mad Dogs and Englishmen and Delaney, Bonnie and Friends. It was going to be the combination of both. The husband and the wife with a fucking circus going on around them, like musicians and things happening and whatever, which is what it is. I mean, it's not a circus, but there's 12 people on stage. There's 22 people traveling, which isn't big for big tours, but it's big for theater tours. And there's people sitting in all the time. Like they go into towns and, you've done shows, so
No, they're amazing.
Guests come in. We bring guests in when we do, we built the New York show which is a whole other story, from 1 to 6 nights now. So we got 6 nights, and we have guests show up, and we have people sitting in, and
it becomes a destination thing, and the band is just amazing. It's never the same show twice.
The whole concept was to build something that's totally based on music. It's musical. It's not to do with any flat, there's no big show, there's no, big smoke and lights and all the rest of it. It's
not that the production doesn't exist, though, because there is
production. But it's built around the music. The production came second.
I don't want to cut that short. It's an amazing story, but I want to get to Charlie before we get cut off. But can you hang out with us for a little?
I'm here.
Cool. From Stateside Present, we want to bring up Charlie Levy from Arizona. Please give it up.
Hey, Harlan Fry here from Atlantic Records, sitting with my good buddy Dan Steinberg, Promoter 101. Let's go.
Not only has Charlie never been to Pollstar before, but this is his first panel, and he's coming out to actually speak, so be easy on him.
And you had me follow Wayne. How can I follow Wayne? What did you do to me?
You got some shoes to fill.
I know. Holy moly. What do you want to know?
Well, let's start with the same kind of question we started with Wayne here. What was your start? What's your history? What's your background?
Sure. So I grew up outside of New Orleans and sort of one of those guys that went to every show I could go to. And then I went to school at Arizona State University and started to work for the booking shows for the concert team over there. And then Danny Zalesko from Evening Star Presents hired me while I was in college to start working with him. And then I did that for a few years, and about 3 years, and was a talent buyer there, and then decided to do it on my own.
And what was the first gig with Danny? What were you doing?
I was working at school, and he asked me to be a runner for a Paul McCartney stadium show.
Your fucking show was McCartney?
First show. And it was like a 4-day job. I took the whole week off of school. I thought it was like the hottest shit ever. All my friends hanging out with the crew, living life, big head, walking around crazy. And
how'd that work out for you?
Well, I mean, every time you do something new, be it your first job, opening your first club, your first big promoted show, you mess up a lot, and you learn from that. And I've been fortunate enough to mess up a lot and then get lucky. And
I'm sensing there's more here.
There's more here. So it's right. They're trying to settle the show. So it's in a trailer, and Danny's there, and Laura, who was she's in her 30s, and she was a spunky office manager. And they go, Charlie, we need all your float. It's like thousands of dollars worth of receipts from the whole week. And I can't find it at all. I lost it. And I have to go in, and I'm just like shaking, and I'm just like, and the lesson I learned was, get your shit done, work hard, and then have fun, not slack the whole time. And I just remember her looking at me and going, I either want $2,000 or $2,000 worth of receipts now. And I had to go to the bank, and, I was flipping out. But
you pulled the money?
No, it worked out. Someone found it, and I ended up dating the office manager for 3 years, and we lived together. So it all worked out at the end.
At the end of the day, he got laid.
But it all worked out at the end. So that was kind of like my first big show that I worked for Danny. Then I worked for about 3 years, and then I started to promote shows on my own.
Your philosophy is a little bit different than most people's, and I find it fascinating because we do a lot of shows everywhere, and you have a very different model.
I've always been a fan of those little Italian restaurants where the owner's sweeps the bathroom and makes everything small and perfect. And I love club shows. I really think you make a difference. If the bigger the show, if you're an arena show, they're gonna have everything on their catering rider. If you do book a band that's making $500, $1,000 a night, and you get every little thing on their catering rider, bar none, they'll come up and say thank you. You know what I mean? We did a Dave Bazan Page of the Line show years ago, and he came up to me and said, "You're the first promoter that got everything on our rider," and it means so much. And when our team does shows, if the band doesn't say on stage or to us off stage, it's the best night of the tour, we failed.
And that's the vibe normally too. You guys have got that
but in
rep.
club shows, you can do that. You know what I mean? You have that power to really make things special, and that's why we do 550 shows a year last year. You know what I mean? It's super fun.
Bowling clubs?
No, we move up. You know what I mean? So we'll move up. We own 2 clubs, and then we're opening an 1,800 seat venue. And then the next up is Comerica, and we work with Live Nation a lot there, and then we do some arena stuff. So,
you told Dan and I that your goal was to make the Crescent Ballroom in Phoenix the best room in the country. You think that's just a continuation of what you're doing here and what you just talked about?
Yeah, I mean that's what we try. And so in bands, there's nothing better than when a Walk the Moon or Jeff Magnum can do big numbers, or Dr. Dog, and they do 2 nights in a row because they like the room so much. Super, that's what I live for.
Now, you told us that you'd never been to CAA and you'd only been to William Morris once. Are you actively avoiding agents?
I'm not really good at this stuff, and I've been, Danny and Tom LaPenna and Terry are big, they kind of have a big personality. Dan, I followed Dan around today or a couple days ago with a notepad to see how he works the room.
I learned how to work the room from Wayne and Bill Silva, by the way, actually. If you get a chance to watch them work a reception, at the awards, if you go, have your eyes on Wayne. He glides through the room. It's amazing.
So my whole thing is just take care of what you do and really focus down on what you do. And then it takes a longer time, then people kind of will get to know, that you do it well. And just kind of focus on your world and not worry about anybody else. That makes sense.
How many shows
I'm no Wayne Forte, though.
There's only one Wayne Forte. How many shows did you do last year?
We did like 560.
So are you able to carry that same philosophy up from the clubs into Comerica and all these bigger rooms that you're talking about building through your market?
I mean, we're building the 1,800 seat that'll be open in August, and we're in the building process now. We're trying to make it the best club we can, and then.
Can we talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
There's already an 1,800 seat in the market, right? Because Tom's got one.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to be competing, and you've taken on a partner in that venue to do that, right?
It's not I've been knowing the Live Nation guys since Evening Star because it's Terry and Mary and those guys.
Terry Burke.
Yep. And it makes sense to partner with someone who brings something extra to the table that I don't bring. So we're finalizing a deal to make a partnership between the two of us.
So will they be involved in the Crescent too, or just the new room?
Just the new room.
It's the Van Buren?
The Van Buren.
And it opens
August 1st.
Who's
We
the
need to
first
open.
show?
We don't have anyone, Wayne.
Well, I think they you charge a little bit more for the opening night, don't you, Wayne?
Yeah, oh, definitely. Double for the opening. Yeah. August 1st. Is the opening's open? August 1st?
Yeah.
Does that work with the routing?
Good. I'm just thinking. Mine's going. Wheels are turning.
Okay, so some of the agents have been very loyal to you. In a lot of cases, the people that own the bar get that show, but they don't move the acts up. You have not only broken the acts in your room, but you promote them on the bigger level. Why do you think the agents have been so loyal to you as they move the acts into the bigger rooms?
I have no idea. I mean, I don't think about that stuff. It's like I said, we just put our head down, do our job, and then if we don't, I never get upset if we don't get shows. I don't get the call. I just feel like if you work hard, do your thing. If people want to work with me, great. If they don't, they don't. I don't get upset when another promoter gets a show, and 95% of the time we work with a band, they'll keep with us to the next level. So it doesn't happen that often, but if it does, it does. And so be it. As long as you take care of yourself, take care of your business. Don't worry about anything else. So that's sort of my thing, It's all about intentions.
This is Andrea Johnson from ICM Partners, and you're listening to Promoter 101.
This is my favorite part of the interview. Every once in a while, we've never done it on the podcast, but we're in Pollstar. It's kind of a fun game that I like to bring back. I like to call Truth or Patron. For those of you that know the game, we have a special guest bartender today, tour manager for such acts as Emperor of the Sun, Black Keys, and Imagine Dragons. Mr. Jim Runge's with us. Give it up for Jim. If you don't know the rules, here's how it goes. We're going to ask each of our panelists a question. If they don't like the question, which might be a little harder than anything they've gotten so far, they can take the shot as a mulligan, moving on from the question. Or they can answer the question, leaving the shot. Of course, they could be a true badass and answer the question and do the shot, because I believe this Pollstar live audience would reward them for that. Am I right, Pollstar? Now, of course, I would never ask them to do anything that I wouldn't do myself first. So I will take the first shot, Jim, if I may. Oh, that is Patron. I thought this was water. Cheers, Pollstar. Okay, I believe, where's Scott? Oh, Scott left.
He had to bounce.
Dick.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Dave had to bounce too.
It's all right. We got more booze then.
Yeah, perfect.
We got people to find. Okay, Charlie, you work with some of the biggest agencies. Who is the single best agency out there?
Are you kidding me? Do you want me to stop now and retire and get fired? Who is the best agency?
Who is the single best agency, and on top of that, the single best agent?
Oh my God.
Gotta take a shot.
Is Brent Steinberg still an agent? He sold me my first show. He's never sold me a show ever, but he showed me Untouchables in college. Give him a shot. I won't say any agencies, please.
Wayne?
Do we have more than one question? Because that was pretty good.
Absolutely.
I should have had a few of these before the panel.
We got the full bottle. We can go. Wayne, have you ever been tempted to poach an act from another agent? If so, who?
Who the actor, who the agent?
Yep.
I'll take the shot.
Luke, I didn't want to leave you out, Luke. If you could get rid of any one competitor, no questions asked, who would it be?
Well, seeing as my artists want to collaborate with a lot of other companies and I have to deal with those managers every day, I probably should take a shot here, I think. So I got no answer for that. Red light. Let's say red light.
Red light, all right. Jim, not so fast. Don't go anywhere. What's with the fucking suits? You're fucking tour manager.
I have a philosophy: if you can't be professional, look professional. And besides, you don't want to see what this is hiding, so it's just camouflage.
And he's going to do the shot anyway. Give it up for him, ladies and gentlemen.
What's Dan's question? Dan, what's your favorite room to go into? If you had one room, what's your favorite room?
My favorite room in the entire country?
What's your favorite room to promote a show in?
I like the Levitt Pavilion in Denver. I'm a fan of it. 7,500 seats opening up July 19th.
Just zero shame from you at any point.
All right.
What's your favorite room in Tucson?
Oh, that's easy. I love the Rialto Theater.
Hey, Curtis!
Yeah.
Correct answer.
Another shot? Give it. Yeah, Charlie wants to get drunk. Give Charlie some drinks. And Bill Kittle wants one too while he's typing through this entire fucking thing. Luke?
Sure.
My favorite.
Go. Why don't we just take a moment to thank both Wayne and Charlie for being up here today. This is great. You guys were awesome. So we got about 10 or so minutes left here in the room. We want to open up for the first time here some live questions. So for any one of the people up here on the panel, Jeff White, I believe, is going to be running around with an actual microphone. Just stand up, say your name, say your company, ask away, but make sure you speak directly on the mic. That's recording our podcast as well, too.
Who's got a question? Wow. All right, the internet. Rick Farrell up front.
You get a shot of tequila if you ask a question.
Yeah.
Rick Farrell, ICM. Question for you, Dan. How many shows are you up to per year now? And how the fuck do you have time to do this podcast every week?
I have a really good partner that somehow takes none of the credit for any of the stuff we do and lets me take all of it. And do you know, how many shows do we do? Do you have any idea? 6, okay. 600 sounds like a good number, yeah. I know that we did 73 in September, so I guess extrapolate that out. That was the only month I took time to count because there was a night that I had to settle 8 shows. And Jason was covering Straight No Chaser at the Ryman that night, and the Ryman's a pretty particular show because the acts are there and the manager's there and the agent's there, so it takes a lot of time to host and then still try to settle the show. So it was really the only thing he could do while he was in the room, so I had to settle everything else that night. And between his load and my load, it was just like an amazing amount of shows, and I was just counting on the time changes in the different time zones to like work in my benefit. But yeah, that was the month 73, I think. So yeah, 600.
How many airline miles do you have?
Dude, I'm going to London twice this year for free. It's awesome. I'm going to see Stone Roses at Wembley because Straight No Chaser sings so well in so many cities for us. Anybody else? Okay, this is shocking, but very cool. Thank you so much for joining us.
This is it for episode 17, Promoter 101. Thank you to our live audience here at Pollstar Live and the JW Marriott. Next week, we're going to be joined by WME's Mark Geiger. For World of Production, Mr. Jim Runge is going to be back in the podcast, so please tune in.
With Dave Klein, who's currently out with Justin Bieber, so that should be good.
The Promoter 101 World Tour, as Steiny's calling it, is continuing. After here, we're going to be at ILMC. That's over in London on March 9th.
At South by Southwest, we'll have Steve Martin as a guest, so come down and have some barbecue and talk some shit with us.
In April 19th, we're going to be at CMW interviewing UTA's Jack Ross and Elliot Lefko.
And coming up on the podcast in the next couple of weeks, we've got some amazing things. Tom Windish, Andrew Druskin, Andrea Johnson, Jamie Adler, Rick Greenstein, and so many more. We've got some exciting things coming up.
So if you have any thoughts about the podcast or you want us to interview somebody, please, we want to hear your feedback. You can email us at steiny@promoter101.net.
And you can follow us on Twitter at WLukePierce or at The Jew.
And if you subscribe, please be sure to subscribe to Promoter 101 to wherever you listen to podcasts. If you like what we're doing, please tell some friends about it. We want to hear from you either way.
This is Dave Brooks with Amplify Media, and I will be on Promoter 101.
All right. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter